The biggest game of the week, Texas versus Georgia. You have a spot in the SEC championship game at stake. Playoff implications on the line. Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite going into this contest. And they're going up against a Texas team that is getting hot at the right moment because Arch Manning in his last 2 games has played some of his best football. He's thrown 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and it's overlooked how talented of a team Texas is. Texas has arguably the best roster in college football. They have the most expensive team in America, and the reason why they haven't played as good as what they were expected to coming into this year is Arch Manning getting out to a slow start during this season. But you rather play your best football late because this is when you are trying to make that playoff push. And if Arch Manning plays as well in this game as what he has over these last 2 contests, then Texas could end up winning this game. And I don't think it's crazy to believe that Texas has a 60-70% chance to beat Georgia in their home territory because Georgia's defense is not that good. When you think Georgia and Kirby Smart, you affiliate that with elite defense. But Georgia has been Georgia this year. And the main reason for that is their defense just not being that great. They aren't that good getting after the quarterback. They are one of the worst teams in America at producing sacks. And although Texas' offensive line has had their fair share of struggles, I don't think Georgia's pass rush is good enough to take advantage of that. They are 125th in sacks per game. And their secondary is also hit or miss at times. And they're not that good at forcing turnovers like how they have been in years past. Previous Georgia teams have had ball hawking secondaries. And Georgia's secondary this year is far from that. So with the struggles that Georgia has had defensively, Tennessee put points up on them, Ole Miss put points up on them, Arch Manning should definitely be able to carry his hot streak from over his last 2 games into this contest against Georgia. And if he's playing great football, then that also means that Texas defense is going to be really good also. Because if your quarterback's playing good and you're able to have efficient, methodical drives and your defense isn't on the field for more plays than what they should be. And Texas has a better defense than what Georgia does. Texas can get after the quarterback. They also are really good against the run. They have the 3rd best run defense in college football, and they also are 29th in takeaways. And we know that Georgia does have the ability to play a complementary style of offense. Gunnar Stockton has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also has chipped in on the ground. And I don't question Georgia's ability to win a game off the shoulders of Gunnar Stockton. But is that really the kind of game that Georgia wants to get into? Do you really want to get into a shootout with Arch Manning in Texas? Because if this game does end up being a shootout, then it favors Texas because the upside, the ceiling is a lot higher from Arch Manning than what it is with Gunnar Stockton, because you just have a better efficient passer in Arch Manning when he's at his best as compared to Gunnar Stockton. And I think that the difference in this game will be the quarterback play, like it is for a lot of games that end up coming down to the wire in the SEC. But with Texas defense, though, with how they can just blanket the run game, if they can make Georgia a one-dimensional team and they can tee off those pass rushers, that makes this game one that Texas has in their favor. But Georgia's offense, though, which is why I say Georgia isn't Georgia this year. Georgia kind of feels like an old school Big 12 team because their offense is the main reason for why they've been as good as what they've been this year. We know Gunnar Stockton hasn't been flashy, but he's been efficient. Only a handful of turnovers, 22 total touchdowns. He's completing nearly 70% of his passes. They have a lot more talent at receiver this year than what they had last year. They don't have guys with the drop C's, guys that got butterfingers. Zachariah Branch has the ability to break this game open for Georgia. He's a huge X factor in this game. Arch Manning is the X factor for Texas. Zachariah Branch is the X factor for Georgia. I don't think this game is solely going to come down to Gunnar Stockton being able to throw the football over Texas defense. I think it comes down to how many plays can you get Zachariah Branch the ball in his hands, and can he be able to break off a big 60, 50-yard yak for a touchdown? Because he's the kind of player that Georgia needs to really break this game open. He's the fastest receiver in the nation. He kind of is a mix of DeAnthony Thomas and Tavon Austin when he gets into the open field, and he leads Georgia in receptions and yards by a pretty wide margin. So they feature Zachariah Branch in this offense. Everybody talks about Zach Frazier and the 1-2 punch that they have at running back with the Illinois transfer that they have, but Zachariah Branch has been a huge revelation for this Georgia offense. And once you get him into space, there's not too many defenses that can get this guy on the ground. And it's pretty easy to get Zachariah Branch involved, rather it be jet sweeps, bubble screens, slants. So Zachariah Branch definitely is a huge impact player to watch in this game. And if Georgia ends up winning this one, I think Zachariah Branch goes off. Now, what concerns me about Georgia is their tendency to start the game out sluggish. They've had a few games like against Auburn when they came out slow, and then the second half they rallied and they got hot to end the game. I don't think you can afford to start off slow against Texas. Because Texas, if Arch Manning is playing some good football with how your defense has looked, it's going to be hard to get back into a game if Arch Manning is playing at his full potential. And unless your pass rush does something in this game that they've been unable to do all year long, which is get the quarterback on the ground, this isn't the kind of game that Georgia can afford to start slow in. Even though you do have the coaching advantage and you do have home field advantage on your side, I don't think Texas is going to be fazed by that. This is a talented team. This is a really good roster, one of the best in all of college football. And I don't think Georgia wants to fuck around and find out. And this is one of those games that Georgia needs to put together a very strong first half. Because if you start trying to come from behind against a hot Arch Manning, I don't think it's going to vote well for you. Overall, I'm going to take Texas to cover, but Georgia to win outright, 31-27. Steve Sarkisian is kind of in that James Franklin territory. Not completely in it, but he hasn't had a lot of big marquee wins on his resume. Outside of going on the road and taking out Nick Saban in Alabama a few years ago, there's not really a lot of big statement wins that Steve Sarkisian has under his belt. Now, I know Longhorns fans are going to disagree with that. They're going to bring up Texas A&M last year. I understand that, but I just trust Kirby Smart a lot more in this game than I trust Steve Sarkisian. I think the coaching matchup could be a deciding factor in this game, along with the quarterback play. And although Arch has played some really good football, I think he can have a pretty good performance in this game. I don't know if he'll be able to take care of the ball. And Gunnar Stockton, you don't have the turnover concerns with him. And also, Georgia's run game, even if it doesn't get going, you just have to expect that Georgia just is going to find a way, because that's what they've been doing all season long. They have just found ways to survive and advance to the next week. Texas kind of has done the same thing, but even though Texas has the better team, in my opinion, it's just hard to bet against Kirby Smart and the Dogs. So I got to take Texas to cover, but I like Georgia to win outright. And I'm really conflicted because I want to take Texas to win. I really believe that this is a game that Arch Manning can get off, and he can really have his I have officially arrived moment. And even though Georgia's defense hasn't been good, at least they come away with key stops. In the fourth quarter, if you need to get off the field, Georgia's going to find a way to do so. So I like Georgia to win outright, but I'll take Texas to cover.